What is one thing your parents taught you but you will never teach your children? How to open a beer bottle with my teeth. Teeth. No. A lighter. Yes. I feel like a beeping wizard every time I do it, and I will never, ever, look up to see if anyone's actually impressed. That parents never have to apologize to their kids. I love my dad. He is a great dad and I know he loves me so much. But he has it in his head that even now, even when his youngest me is an adult, that he doesn't need to apologize if he does something wrong. It's baffling. How to change an electrical outlet. 120 volts. Live. Good stuff. I got to agree with that. My dad worked on most of that live. I definitely don't. I mean, I teach them how to do it like it's live. But I check to make sure it's dead before I actually do anything. That you need to hustle 100% of the time and be constantly busy with school/worka, extra activities, side projects, cleaning, etc. Spending time unwinding is a sign of laziness and boredom, and intelligent people are never bored. This really messed me up and I'm still learning the art of wasting time. My parents didn't insist that I hustle 100% of the time. But they were and are very brainy people who thought that school and education are what's important over everything else. That I shouldn't waste time with athletics or trying dating in high school because being smart would pay dividends later in life. Their hearts were in the right place. But now I'm 30 and single and have had very few lasting romantic relationships because my parents were awkward. Nerdy people who created awkward, nerdy people. We were not an emotional household and I feel like I'm making up for that to this day. And now they're pining for grandchildren. That crying is shameful. This. My father was well mean. But he will tell me to stop crying because it makes me look weak and I'm stronger than that. It really messes with me. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Even now as a grown adult struggle with embarrassment when I cry. Eat everything on their plate. I try to get my kids to make an effort to eat their meals. But I'm never going to punish them for not being hungry when I say so. Sometimes you start it and can't finish. Sometimes you just don't like it. Now if they keep saying they're hungry, sometimes you gotta learn to take what you can get though. Eating cookies before dinner gives you worms. Had nightmares as a child. Fear is the worst way to teach a child. That sex. Sexuality. Drinking/drugs/partying. Politics. Money. Spirituality are awkward things to discuss. I want my future kids to know facts and that if they are ever in trouble, I am a safe place for them. We don't have to talk about it if they don't want to. They'll be taught how to be safe. But they should also know that these subjects are a part of life and should not cause shame. Lack of empathy. My parents grew up in a really horrible situation and they made it out and did well for themselves. So now anytime anyone struggles they refuse to feel bad for them because they have gone through worse and did fine. I think people deserve empathy regardless. Apologizing and showing emotions is a sign of weakness. That their love has conditions. And if not followed they will drop you in your time of need. Right or wrong. I hope my children will never feel like they can't talk to me or that I will judge them. My parents fought a lot. They'd both get very emotional about things and raise their voices in every argument. By example, I will teach them that when you are angry, take a break from the argument until you've both calmed down. My dad always said, children should be seen and not heard. I'm not a big fan of that one. The man of the house is always right. Being hypercritical. My parents were very critical of me about so many things. My grades. My performance in extracurricular activities. Even how I did chores. What was worse was that they would often compare me to others as well. And would only ever praise me when they were basically bragging to other people. An example that always stuck with me was when I had a part-time job as a waiter in high school. And my dad would often scold me for wasting my time at a useless job instead of focusing on school. And how I was just gonna end up being a bum just like my older brother. But then when he's talking to his friends he brags about how his youngest son is so hard-working. He even has a part-time job in high school. It's this sort of hypercriticism is why I struggle a lot with self-esteem and confidence. What's worse is that I find myself even being hypercritical of other people's behavior. Like if they make a mistake or don't do something how I would have done. I don't snap like my dad would do. But I still find myself immediately getting annoyed. It's something I'm working on. And hope to never do to my future kids. That a parent's feelings are more valid than the child's. My mom did this once when I expressed to my dad that she constantly hurt my feelings. She came into my room after that since my dad had just tucked me into bed when I told him, and she said, and I quote, "I hurt your feelings. You hurt mine when you make me spank you or yell at you." Almost every time she spanked me with what we call the board, which is basically a shaped piece of wood with a handle, it would be about me talking during church or playing with my friends in restaurants too loudly. She never said to quiet down. She'd say shut up / stop and threaten me with licks, aka spanking me with the board. So I never felt like I could have fun as a child basically. That's a trauma I'm still trying to get over. Though my confidence is getting better and I'm finally branching out and doing things by myself. I say finally because I'm around 20 years old and have yet to ever have a job or adult properly. I do still have trust issues and issues with feeling like how I feel is valid and okay, but I'm working on it. That small children should and will work like adults. Never mind the fact that they're physically incapable of it. And I mean stuff like full home renovations and heavy landscaping. A little kid can't carry a ceiling beam on their own. And surprise, they also can't handle a giant wheelbarrow full of heavy wet mulch on their own either. I mean, FFS now. My parents tried to tell my then 6-year-old son off about not doing anything when my husband and I were moving heavy furniture. My parents weren't doing jack beep other than watching. Hypocritically enough. And they didn't like when I told them to shut up or GTFO. Because my son is going to be a kid. Not a workhorse. So yeah. I guess my deal is that I was taught that kids are born to work for you. And you shouldn't let them actually be children. And I adamantly refuse to teach my son the same bull's peep. My parents taught me that I don't want to have children. The last thing I want is to become even half of the type of parents they were to me. I was always either neglected or abused growing up. It made me grow into a bitter man with tons of issues. I am aware enough at the very least to know that I am afraid of being even slightly mean to my potential spawn. I struggle with anger issues and I always have. I've gotten better about it. There's no doubt about it. But their actions made me who I am, and I learned that I don't ever want to be like them. Do as I say. Not as I do. Bull's peep. Lead by being an example. Not by just telling someone to do something and then doing the exact opposite yourself. If I'm not allowed to do it, why are you? This just sets the worst example possible for literally anything. Beep hypocrisy. That every person out there is inherently out to get you and has an ulterior motive. No. Just no. With rare exception. Most people are inherently good and will go out of their way to help you and be kind. If you simply let them. Yes. You always have to be aware that there are sociopaths and crazies in the world, but the idea that nobody is to be trusted poison my mind, and now that I've healed from my past trauma. I know that almost everybody is a good person deep down and would never hurt you or exploit you or damage you even if they could. Actual words from my father when I was 13. All women are whores. Eventually they'll cost you something. To answer a few questions. No. I never treated women like I was taught. He was recently divorced from my mother at that time. Not excusing it. I've seen him have one long-term over 3-month relationship in the last 30 years. And very few short ones.